debate that we may get into if we have time. But it's okay to drive down the road with my daughter and see all the alcohol signs, to go to Walgreens to grab my prescription and buy cigarettes.
Yeah, or cigarette ads even still, you know. But the alcohol ads, they're blatantly aimed at young kids, you know, at kids 21 to 30 years old. That's their target audience. These are the people that binge drink. You know, these are the ones that keep them in business. And you see, they make them cool and they make them hip. You know, and they make jokes and it's that, what was it? The Three Amigos sign. I see it every time. You know, for Coors Light, you, refreshment, and great taste or something. And that's fine. That's okay. Even though we know that alcohol kills hundreds of thousands of people a year in the United States, and marijuana's killed nobody.
Tobacco, 500,000.
Yeah, right. And you look at I don't like the sign twirlers. It makes me sick. I don't like I love half-naked women, but I don't like half-naked women when they're out twirling signs. You know, for medicine, it has nothing to do with it. But it seems like anytime anybody makes a law or passes an ordinance, it's all or nothing.
Sure.
You know, and that is not the way that you govern. It's not the way that you regulate. It's a horrible, horrible way to go about this. And I'm shocked.
I wish you could have been a fly on the wall in the last few weeks, man, because we've had some great... I started a little segment where I just rant. We've ranted about, you know, you just made the comment about presenting your medicine, and last week's rant was about testing medicine. In my opinion, I'm moving towards only using meds from places that test their medicine. I can't say that I do it completely because it's sad, but a very small percentage of places do. I know you guys do.
It's not medicine unless you test it. I don't care what you're taking. I don't care if it's Advil. I don't care if it's Alka-Seltzer. You can see what content lies in that package. I mean, it may be sodium bicarbonate, it may be baking soda, but you can tell exactly what's in it. And if we're going to call it that, we have to move to that. Now, I talked about that last week on my show. And Can Labs, really, I would say the only true laboratory that does true testing in Colorado, said they did the math. Out of all of the centered licenses in Colorado, they see only about 4%, maybe 5% testing. That's abhorrent.
I was in there the other day. I love just popping in when I'm over at the Dragon Building and talking with Chris and Jennifer because I like to learn. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we were talking and I was just glanced up at their price list and it dumbfounded me how cheap it is to actually test. I mean, for less than $100, you can check the quality of your patient's medicine. Far less than $100. I'll just throw that out there.
That's right.
And again, you know, I encourage folks, if you're a patient, buy your meds from a place that tests their medicine, because if not, God only knows what you're getting.
You know, we did a test, and I didn't really come out real public on this, but we sent people in to buy medicine from 2 to 3 different places that test, places that don't test, and then we bought it from caregivers. Okay, we had patients buy from caregivers. The worst was the dispensaries that didn't test. We're talking, I mean, some serious junk in this stuff. We found molds. We found mildews. We're not there where we can test pesticides, but I'm sure we would have because I smelled it. And then the caregivers was second, and then, you know, the stuff that was actually passable was the blind test of a place, a very reputable place. I don't want to say their name, reputable place here in Denver and throughout Colorado, and they have a chain of them, and it was damn near perfect. So why aren't we doing this? I don't know. Yeah,
man, it's you know, we're gonna move on in a sec, but just on that note, you know, I buy meds from a few places, and I picked up at one place a couple weeks ago that I don't normally grab meds at, and honestly, you could taste pesticide. It was horrible. I think I've still got it somewhere, but you know, pushed it aside. So we've got to move past that, guys. We've got to be professional in all aspects. We've got to present our medicine as medicine and certify it as such. The folks at Can Labs, I like to give them shouts out. They're not officially a sponsor, but they are friends of mine, and they do excellent work. In my opinion, their equipment, I believe, is the foremost in the state in their lab.
Their equipment and their brains.
Yeah, Chris
Stubbs
is on the show soon. He's on your guys' show every week.
Mm-hmm.
he amazes me every time I listen to him. So
he's brilliant. He's committed to the cause. He knows it's baby steps, but he's as frustrated as we are, believe me.
So yeah, let's stay on that whole First Amendment thing a little bit for a second and talk about the Blue Book. The Blue Book is basically, in layman's terms, because I am a layman in a lot of political things, and this would be one. The Blue Book is a voter's guide, if you will, that basically lists initiatives and lets the proponents and opponents list the positives and negatives. Again, what happened with Amendment 64, for those who don't know, it was covered. THC actually talked to Brian Vicente on their show. Their first show was 4 to 5 today, for those who missed it. Tune in next week. Absolutely. And apparently, from what I gather from Josh, they just threw it out today. There were 138 words that were omitted from the proponent's side, the positive wording, which is not good. I mean, again, we don't have to get really deep into this because it's just a First Amendment issue. I mean, where does that come into play? I mean, Josh, who makes that decision,
Well, I can pull it up right here, but the issue is anytime that they're going to deny the wording in there, especially after they spent so much time getting the votes on the ballot, what that becomes then is the right to put the words in that's going to make sense to the voter. Because anytime somebody has the option to vote on something, they go to that Blue Book and they say, okay, here's the pro and here's the con. Well, the con has 70. Okay, I just got it across the wire just now.
Nice.
Let's see. They refused. It's the Legislative Council. Okay, the esteemed Colorado Legislative Council. His name is Mike Maurer. Okay, so everybody knows that.
Reach out and say hi.
Reach out and say hi. Yeah, you can get his email on the state website. Let him know how you think it's a travesty. But basically what he did was they refused to fix the Legislative Council's error, and then they hid behind the state lawyers, and they got the lawsuit dismissed. A very, very responsible, peaceful a lawsuit to say, hey, we need what every other person that puts something on the ballot gets, and they let it out without even arguments being heard. Okay, so their voice wasn't even heard again. So this is a double travesty. And then as a result, the arguments against the initiative in this year's voter guide will contain 75% more words than the arguments in favor of it.
That's ridiculous, and I did miss. I will admit I went to get some food earlier, so I missed the piece with Brian. I believe they said what was omitted, and I'm sure it was probably something ridiculous. Point being, the facts. There, in my opinion, anyway, it's. And I said this earlier a little bit on David's show that. To me, it's very evident in a lot of our politicians at the state level that their strings are being pulled by the federal government. To me, this is yet another example of the powers that be, if you will, trying to squash freedom of speech, facts, truth. They don't want that out there. They don't want informed voters when they go to the polls for Amendment 64. They want the masses who are still somewhat believe the stereotypes that they've heard their whole life. And unfortunately, they're still out there. It's the sway voters that we have got as activists, as an industry. We have really got to get out there right now and educate. If we don't, this won't. Well, let me add to that. If we don't do that and get along and work together, this won't succeed.
That's the biggest point you could possibly make. And just to throw this in there real quick, I talked to a couple of my lobbyists and legislative friends today on this issue. I said, hey, what's going on? What's the situation? They said, well, it's dirty. Is the best thing that they could tell me on this. And what they're worried about, and the theory, what they're telling us, they're really concerned because the polling is coming back very strong in favor of the amendment. And it's the first time that polling this is not left polling, this is not right polling, this is pretty middle of the road polls. Mm-hmm. And when you're coming in, at the 50-50 mark, that really makes them scared. They made a very, very, what I would consider to be an outright illegal play here because of fear, because they're afraid that this can pass. So they take 75% of this away. That's a big blow. I don't think if you folks really understand that that really has the potential to kill this.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, it I think the Gallup poll was out 2 weeks ago, if I'm correct, like on Friday, and it was like 61%. So they are scared. They're very scared.
They're scared to death. And what mark my word on this, what you're going to see, and I just got word from it today from a conservative legislator, but I can't mention names.
Of course.
This legislator is actually all for the amendment. Is just sick and tired of seeing this, but it is a Republican. And this legislator said, just watch. In the last 30 days, you are going to see a barrage of negative campaigning coming out against this amendment. And he said, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of medical marijuana or marijuana users in general even change their mind because it's going to be so negative.
Well, not only that, man, but I do have one little rant before we go to commercial break. And that's just it. As we get closer and closer, folks, to the election, we are going to see a barrage of negativity come from the other side. Just this week, I've read so many studies that have come out. I read one the other day that smoking cannabis doubles your risk of testicular cancer. A little tongue-tied there. I kind of laughed and shrugged it because, I'm sure it's out there, but pretty much everyone in my life at this point uses cannabis. My Colorado family, if you will, are mostly patients. And one would think if this were the case, I would know one person that had this disease. I don't. So we're going to get into those diseases a little more with you after the break. We're also going to talk to Dr. Robert Melamede later in the show. He'll teach us a little of the underlying science that helps us. So stick with us. We'll be right back. We're going to pay some bills. We love you. We'll be
The law offices of Edson, Mayton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20 of 2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley brothers directly through email. You can get us at gratefuljosh@hotmail.com. Now come on, Colorado. We need to take care of each other. Join the Realm. That's realmofcaring.com. Thank you so much.
The Hemp Connoisseur is Colorado's premier guide to hemp culture. Our mission is to elevate the image of the medical cannabis and hemp industries to create widespread acceptance of the cannabis sativa plant. You can find the latest issue of the Hemp Connoisseur at more than 200 7-Elevens, your favorite dispensary, MMJ doctor offices, and tattered covered bookstores. Do you consider yourself a cannabis connoisseur? Then come be a part of the Hemp Connoisseur's first cannabis championship. Visit us at thcmag.com for info on how to sample the best medicine Colorado has to offer.
That Mad Hatter Smoke Shop has everything from space glass to butane and butane accessories, I tell you what. Located at 6091 West Colfax in Lakewood, and now at 2615 Walnut Street in Denver. Ah! God damn it, Reclaim, put your pants back on.
Hi, I'm Josh Stanley.
And I'm Jesse Stanley.
Two of the brothers here from National Geographic's American Weed, and we'd like to invite you to come into our dispensaries in Colorado Springs. Come in for the most pure organic strain selection in Colorado. It's all hand-grown by the Stanley brothers, especially for our patients. So come in and visit us at our two locations, East Platte and West Colorado. And remember,
always be kind to each other.
And we're back on Overgrow the Radio. It's funny, we get into these crazy good conversations at the break. We should carry that over into the show, maybe.
True.
So our purpose tonight of having Mr. Stanley in, he runs an organization that everyone that listens to my show is pretty familiar with at this point, the Realm of Caring. I was looking. For those who haven't been on our website lately, well, obviously you're there now, but you should spread the word to your friends. We made some improvements. You can go on. We added a few photos, and I was looking through some and ran across the event at Jake's, and I'm pretty sure that's where I met you, and I don't remember who was with you that night.
My brother, Jared.
I don't think I talked to Jared, but you and I chatted, and, I had followed oil for a while in my life and really respected the way that you guys brought it to the table legally here in Colorado. We had an off-air conversation about networks out there that are not so legal. And, my opinion is I'm a little torn because we all want to help everyone, but I also really don't want to go to prison. I wouldn't do good in a cage. I like to be in the mountains. I like to be free. So I do abide by the law, except for speaking my mind and using cannabis as medicine. So anyway, let's jump into the realm, man. I'm going to let you give a background real quick. A lot of people, maybe new listeners, may not have heard you before. So
yeah, if you're not familiar with the realm, it's called the Realm of Caring, and you can learn more about it at realmofcaring.com. And basically what it is, it's an organization that I put together. It's a nonprofit, 501c3, and it has a lot of different goals and a lot of functions, but the primary goal is to get what we call realm oil. A lot of people traditionally call it Phoenix Tears. Our realm oil is very similar to this, except it's tested in a lab, it's ratioed in a lab, and it's free to anyone who needs it. Now, my brothers and I wanted to start this about 3 years ago. And we got caught up in the whole, regulation things and, trying to stay out of jail and trying to do everything right, trying to get these laws passed so that we could eventually put this program into action. This program is also an offshoot of the portion of the bill that I wrote of 1043, the research and development portion, which was my portion and the only portion that I had to do with in that, by the way. So, many people want to throw stones at me.
So don't point fingers.
Yeah. So I wrote the research development portion of that to get that passed so that we can start to do, we could fragmentalize, we can standardize, and we can change different chemical compounds of the cannabis plant in order to more directly focus on particular illnesses and diseases. And one thing that we've seen from Rick Simpson and the success that he'd had with the oil, I said, you know what, if we have 500, 600, 700 at the time medical marijuana centers in Colorado. Why don't we have more people making this non-psychoactive, this non-smokable form of oil that can cure cancer? And so my brothers and I started to make it. And this is, 2.5, 3 years ago. And we started to make it, and we started to experiment with people, licensed medical marijuana patients in the state of Colorado, with cancer, and we had just phenomenal results. And whether their cancer retreated completely, went into a remission, or it was just they were too far down the line, we saw that in every case, 100% of the time, it provided a better quality of life. Better than 70% of the time, it reduced the cancer cells. And now we have an even better ratio than that because we've learned to dial this in through the help of people like Chris Stubbs at Can Labs. And so then we embarked on another mission and said, okay, cancer can't be the only thing that this helps. And so we piggybacked off some studies that have been done in Israel and said, okay, we know that this can help with epilepsy. We know that this can help with Alzheimer's, severe arthritis, and even moderate arthritis. Obviously, severe pain, migraines, muscular dystrophy, the list goes on, AIDS, HIV, the list goes on and on. So we said, okay, which one of these things do we want to tackle first? And so I spent the last 2 years on a breeding project that I really didn't tell anybody about. Trial and error, and finally came up with a plant that, to my knowledge, has the highest level of cannabidiol, or CBD, the non-psychoactive portion of the plant, or just one of the cannabinoids, one of the majors. It's 17.5% and 0.5% THC. So essentially you can smoke this plant or you can vaporize this plant or oil this plant all day long and you're not going to get a psychoactive effect on it.
And also, just to add, people don't realize is the CBDs actually counteract the THC. So not only will you not get high, it will prevent you from getting high.
That's right. It overcomes it. That's right. And that little amount of THC activates the CBD. So you have that just trace amounts in there that set it off. But as much as you may want to get stoned, you're not going to get stoned. And so the realm of caring has two kinds of oil. We have different ratioed indica, hybrid, sativa, psychoactive that we tend to go after cancer and AIDS, HIV, and other various forms of aggressive illnesses. And then we have the CBD oil, which is also called the realm oil. We call it Charlotte's Web. And the story behind that is who we'll be talking to in a little bit, this family, the most amazing family you ever want to meet, the Figis, get a hold of my brother, and my brother learns about their child's syndrome, a very rare form of epilepsy called Dravet syndrome, very violent form of epilepsy, and it's small children. And the Figis have this little girl, Charlotte. She's 5 years old. She tried everything, right? Every pharmaceutical known to man. And finally, her neurologist said that they didn't have a problem with her trying this new cannabidiol and this new oil, non-psychoactive. So her neurologist and Dr. Shackelford got together, and we were able to get little Charlotte legal. Well, it turned out that this plant had been breeding for 2 years. I was breeding for Charlotte, and I was breeding for all these other children. Because now you're looking at, I would say, and I'll let Paige say it in a little bit, but I would say an average of a 90% reduction in her seizures without psychoactive effect. So we go from a little girl that's having 60 to, more than 60 seizures a day at times, basically spending her little life seizing, now in daycare for the first time in her life, learning, talking, laughing, living her life. And it's not just, and so that's why we named the plant Charlotte's Web. So we have these two forms of oil. What's the most important part about the realm of caring? The fact that these patients can get access to this for no cost. What's the next most important part? The fact that we can do observational research studies on this to be able to dial this in to create a true medicine, something that they're going to get every time. So, if you're a cancer patient, you can't walk into a dispensary and say, what really helps me is this OG Kush. Oh, we're out of that this week. You don't walk into a pharmacy and they say, oh, you know what, we're out of your cancer meds, but why don't you give this a shot?
Right.
And so that we're trying to create that standard and that direct line so patients know what they're going to get. Our cancer patients know when they get the realm oil, they know what ratio is right for them, and the other one may not do anything for them. Our little children, could you imagine if you have to go to these kids and their parents and say, we decided we're not going to grow that this time because it wasn't a big yield, or whatever the situation may be. So the Realm of Caring is an organization that gets this medicine to these patients who desperately need it for free, and we need your help. So we need your help bad, and we need your donations. Go to realmofcaring.com. It's easy, it's fast. Get in contact with us. Fill out the contact form. We need volunteers. We need people that can donate trim as well and manifest it legally. My brothers and I can't keep doing this. We can help literally thousands of people with your help. Right now we're helping hundreds. We could help thousands.
Well, and to just add on to that, bro, we push you here on our show all the time. In my opinion, and another one of my rants a couple of weeks ago was giving back, and I started it with activists, but I also included the industry. You guys are a prime example. Dixie Elixirs is a good example. The clinic is a great example. People that make money off this industry, this is, as I pointed out in my segment, it's an industry that would not exist without activism, period. And that being said, if you're a dispensary or a business owner and you're making money in this industry, especially with something like your organization, if you can't take a pound of trim and manifest it over to the Realm of Caring, I don't have a lot of respect for that. We all, I'm not pointing fingers either, we all have to give back. And again, to reiterate what I said a couple weeks ago, if that's not you, if you're like me, you're a limited guy and you don't have pounds of cannabis to donate, volunteer, make phone calls on other things, but you can get a hold of Josh or any of the brothers and volunteer to some level. I'm sure that marketing, you could have people homebound help out with that,
Well, we're running ragged here, going around and visiting people that are bedbound and bringing medicine to them, and even groceries at times and things like that. These people need this. When you get cancer, it's scary. When you're diagnosed with any serious condition, it scares the hell out of you. And what's the first thing you want? You want an ear. You want a heart right next to you beating that you can relate to. If you can't give money then give your time, give it yourself. That's what the realm of caring is all about.
Yeah, man. We're going to actually call Paige right after the break and talk about her beautiful daughter and how well she's doing. You know, I just want to say again, just enforce what you said. Donate, give back, help a cancer patient. It's really not rocket science. It's common sense. It's taking care of humankind, if you will. So just spread some love. We'll be right back on Overgrow the Radio.
The law offices of Edson, Mayton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20 of 2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley brothers directly through email. You can get us at gratefuljosh@hotmail.com. Now come on, Colorado. We need to take care of each other. Join the Realm. That's realmofcaring.com. Thank you so much.
The Hemp Connoisseur is Colorado's premier guide to hemp culture. Our mission is to elevate the image of the medical cannabis and hemp industries to create widespread acceptance of the cannabis sativa plant. You can find the latest issue of the Hemp Connoisseur at more than 200 7-Elevens, your favorite dispensary, MMJ doctor offices, and tattered covered bookstores. Do you consider yourself a cannabis connoisseur? Then come be a part of the Hemp Connoisseur's first cannabis championship. Visit us at
Paige, it's me. If you just want to hold on just a second,
best medicine Colorado has to
we're going to bring you in right after
That
this
Mad Hatter
commercial.
Smoke Shop has everything from space glass to butane and butane accessories. I tell you what. Located at 6091 West Colfax in Lakewood, and now at 2615 Walnut Street in Denver. Ah! God damn it, Reclaim, put your pants back on.
Hi, I'm Josh Stanley.
And I'm Jesse Stanley.
Two of the brothers here from National Geographic's American Weed, and we'd like to invite you to come into our dispensaries in Colorado Springs. Come in for the most pure organic strain selection in Colorado. It's all hand-grown by the Stanley brothers, especially for our patients. So come in and visit us at our two locations, East Platte and West Colorado. And remember,
Always be kind to each other.
Here we are back at Overgrow the Radio, and I think I confused my next guest a little because we called her during the commercial. So I hope Paige heard me. Are you there, Paige?
Hey.
How are you this evening? Hello.
Yeah, there's a horrible connection.
Would you like us to try you back real quick? I'm sure Josh and I can ramble and we can hang up and call you back.
Yeah, I can barely hear you guys.
Right on. We'll call you right back. We'll ramble for a second. Get on that, sir. He's a great guy. He's got it handled. I meant, please get on that, sir.
yeah.
So, Josh, do you want to lead us into Paige and,
Sure.
Kind of give her an introduction, if you will?
Well, Paige is a very, she wouldn't say this probably, but I think one of the most courageous mothers I've ever met in the state of Colorado, and what she's gone through with her daughter, Charlotte. And when you understand the severity of a syndrome like Dravet syndrome, and you understand that you're watching your child suffer perpetually, to the tune of 60 or more seizures a day, grand mal seizures even, and that in itself breaks your heart. Just the videos and things that I've seen. I didn't have the opportunity to know Charlotte back before the Realm Oil, but just videos and things that I've seen, I would say she's courageous for going through that. She's got a huge heart. And then she was courageous to lead the pack and try this type of treatment and this oil. So hopefully we can get a good connection with her, because I think her story is really important. It's a very, very unique story here in the state of Colorado in medical marijuana, because we're talking about a five-year-old child.
There we go. Let's try that again. Any better?
Yes, that's way better.
Absolutely. So I'm here, Paige, you and I have met briefly a couple times, and you know, Josh he's here with me, and he was giving you kind of a lead in, a little introduction, and we cut him off. I just want to start off by saying, before we do talk with you, that kudos on your courage on what you do for your child. There's a lot of folks who just can't get over the stigma and won't offer that care to their own children. I'm not one of those people. If my child were to ever come down with something, it would be the first medicine that she got. So I'm going to let you jump in, and I'm actually going to let Josh introduce you a little bit more.
Hey, Paige, how are you?
Yeah, I'm catching like every other word. Can you? Yeah, I can barely hear you guys. You probably can't hear me either. Just call on Mandy Stanley's phone, and we'll try that. She has a different connection. I'm so sorry, I can't hear you guys.
No, that's okay. We'll give it a try. We'll try Mandy's phone real quick.
Okay, thanks.
We bleeped out that word or that name in editing. But anyway, Dravet's, I guess in my opinion, anytime that a parent comes out is essential, because to end the stigma, part of that is to use this as medicine for everyone. You know, I butted heads with a friend of mine the other night. It's great when you can have debates with friends and still be friends about some sidewalk chalk that was put out at a recent Susan G. Komen event. I thought it was great. From a personal standpoint, I thought it was great. I thought it was getting the message out. And I can go into this more later, but I've approached Susan G. Komen and gotten a very bad response. So for me, it was, we've tried to work with you. Go for it. And it was things like Google, you know, Dr. Bob or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
We'll just use our next guess.
Hi.
Third time's a charm, I bet.
That's right. It's my lucky number.
Nice. So anyway, we've been chatting about you. Your ears may be ringing a little bit, but you know, I was just saying it's very courageous to come out for your child and treat your child with cannabis and help people like Josh and I get the word out that parents do have the common sense to use a harmless plant as medicine the way it was intended. So I'm again, I'm going to hand it over to Josh for a second and let you guys kind of rant. The purpose tonight is kind of to bring you on, of course, and let you tell your story. So parents out there that are listening or may listen in the future, you know, maybe you can help them get over that stigma.
Yeah. Hey, yep. Hey, Paige, Josh here. Can you hear me?
Hey. Yeah. Hey, John.
Hey. Yeah, I don't want to take up the time here. I think it's important. We have different listeners here, and it's not my show. And I'd really, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of going through the story of your odyssey, if you will, into the world of cannabidiol, CBD, and realm oil.
Sure. Well, Charlotte's 5. She has Dravet syndrome, a really rare, severe form of epilepsy, very intractable, untreatable with medicine. And Charlotte has failed all the meds, all the pharmaceuticals. And so we got that call from our neurologist and saying we've reached the end of the line, end of the rope here, and what to try next. It's kind of like cycle back through the same drugs that caused brain damage and failed her. And I said, well, just give me 2 months. I know some people in California and Canada who are trying this supplement, I called it, and let me just try this out, and I'll contact you and let you know how it's working and that sort of thing. And so we got the go ahead from her to go ahead with the cannabis, and we hadn't met the Stanleys yet, and we didn't really know too much, and I was learn as I go kind of thing, and we were not in this industry or this realm of cannabis before this, and we were a little nervous, and but we crossed all our T's, we got our card, and we did all that, and then we just sort of met people, and finally we got in touch with the Stanleys, and they set us up with this high CBD strain, non-psychoactive strain of cannabis, and we got started, and her seizures. So when we first started last winter, she was probably about 200 to 300 grand mal seizures a week is what she was having. And in between, she was just in this non-convulsive status epilepticus. She's basically having a seizure for 6 months straight. Very, very few days where she wasn't just staring and drooling and catatonic. And as soon as we started that first week, I think she went 7 days, that first week seizure-free. Trying this, and no medicine has done that for my daughter. So we were just shocked. I didn't expect that, and so we kind of kept on track, and we learned, and we just kept trying different things with her. and raising the dosage. And again, this is still non-psychoactive, very, very little THC. And now we're at 7 months, and she is off all her drugs, and she's doing amazing. She's talking and walking, and she's doing amazing right now.
I hear story after story. Dravet is new to me, Paige, and it touches my heart to hear this story. But it reminds me a lot of the stories I've heard over the years with autism and children that were just completely not there. And with the help of cannabis in some form, they just completely do a 180.
I know. It really needs to be studied. It needs to be, another look needs to be taken at this, especially by parents who are nervous, as I was, and a lot of my friends who are parents of Dravet children are very nervous to try it, and very, just conventional parents, medicinally conventional, and they go ahead and try this, and it's working. I don't think anyone that has started, that I know of, with Dravet, has gone off of it. And I think the reason, even if it doesn't have the same seizure control that we've had, we're at like 99% seizure. She has 0 to maybe 2 or 3 a week now at the most. And it's more like 3 every 2 or 3 weeks, 3 seizures, and in total. Yeah, no. So she went from 300 to 3, let's say. So, and that's over months and months. That's not this week. That's how she's been for the last 6 months, 7 months. And I just think the side effects that we're seeing have that she's tube fed. She's a G tube, Mickey button, and she wasn't eating or drinking. In fact, she's never drank her own water. We had to syringe it in her mouth, and then we finally got her the surgery, and she's just never taken a sip of water. And now she drinks and eats 100%. I do not use her tube anymore. I could close up the hole, and she'd be fine. And she sleeps. She's off her sleep medication, and her autistic behavior, which these children, a lot of them are labeled with autism, but it's not actual autism, but it looks just like autism, and the violent, self-injurious behavior is gone. It's all gone. So the side effects that we didn't expect from this have just benefited her so greatly that if it stopped working for her seizure control, I will keep her on this. She'll be on this forever. For those reasons alone. It's just harmless, wonderful side effects that we're seeing. And so we're very pleased and surprised, and just it's been amazing what the realm is doing for us, the Stanley brothers.
Sure. I mean, in my opinion, it's for any parent, it's a pretty logical choice once you educate yourself. Pharmaceuticals are poison. The plant obviously is not. I want to, if you don't mind, Paige, I've got a couple quick questions before we let you go. Because there are parents out there with concerns, and like you're addressing right now, there is the stigma. Your story is so crucial to get out there because these people see this and they see that there's no side effects, and obviously Charlotte's not doing anything crazy like some of the old reefer madness type things.
Right.
I'm sure she's a healthy, happy young lady who likes to swing and play in the sandbox and things of that nature.
Well, she is now. She is now. She wasn't.
Right. Did you guys in the beginning? I mean, were you said you had some reserves. Did it take you a while to come to terms? Were you cannabis friendly? I'll just ask it that way.
I was cannabis neutral. We're not users. My husband's in the military. We're not at all in that realm. I mean, we live in Colorado, so it's an open-minded kind of a state. But no, we were not in that mindset at all. But we're neutral. I think I'm open-minded. But when you hear that there's literally nothing left from the top, pediatric epileptologist at Children's Hospital, and you hear there's nothing left, we go to acupuncturists. We were trying everything. We thought it was carpet fibers. We put her in these special diets, and so we were very open-minded. But fear is so powerful. I mean, just that stigma, like you're saying, it is amazingly powerful to change a person's mind around. Right. And I'm an open-minded person, so now it wasn't really just a next therapy to try. And when I learned that you can do it without the psychoactive part of it, the psychoactive side effect, the THC, which actually the THC is very beneficial. It isn't, it always is given this bad label, but she's 5. We don't want to get a 5-year-old high right off the bat. That's not our agenda. Sure. But I do, on bad days, she gets an extra dose of a little bit extra THC, and that knocks her out of any bad cycle she's having. So THC has this bad it's a bad name, but it does work together with the CBD. But
Well,
you can't get up to the levels of CBD, that we need with a low dose, which is what most street kind of drugs, if they have any CBD at all, it's really low. And so, I push the high CBD thing, not because the THC is evil, but just because you can't get to that level that we're at. The milligrams she's taking a day of CBD, we just couldn't work up to that,
right?
With what we couldn't find.
Well, and Josh talked earlier about having the two different kinds of oil, and I'm gonna shout out my story a little bit too. I think after we're done here. And I think there is absolutely a reason for that, and you're expressing it perfectly. For me, actually, your brother Joel and I had a big conversation. I don't remember if it was on the radio or just off the radio, about, there is a beneficial side to THC, to that euphoria even. For me in particular, as a pain patient, it takes your mind a little bit off of the pain or whatever the case may be. So absolutely, and it's, like you pointed out, with any of these diseases, cancer, Dravet, you need that high dosage, and it is really hard to get there with conventional oil. Even for someone like me who consumes a lot of flour in a day, I don't know that I could eat a gram of oil a day like cancer patients are supposed to. Not currently, no. So my other question, in your guys' journey, if you will, for lack of a better term, did you guys, was this recommended by, the surgeons and doctors you were seeing in mainstream medicine? And you don't have to get specific. The reason I'm asking this, if there are parents out there that are curious, did you have a hard time finding a physician that would issue a red card for Charlotte?
Well, this is what I did. This is what I tell the new parents, too. No, my doctor had she had read some of the studies. I brought some things in for her to look at, and they were some of the older mouse rat studies that were 50-50. I think they're from the 70s or 80s and that sort of thing. So she was kind of like, some people get worse, some people get better, some say the same. It's worth a shot. So she was open to it. She did not recommend it. Her neurologist did not recommend it, did not know much about it. But I didn't go in there asking. I went in that day and I said, I had done a little bit of research and I had made up my mind, and I said, I told them what I was going to do, and I asked them if that was, what, if they were going to just give me the okay, give me the nod to go ahead with this. I didn't go in asking, because at least at this point in time, the neurologists, especially the pediatric neurologists, aren't going to know. This isn't their realm, and this isn't their realm of expertise. And so I tell all the new parents, don't go in asking this doctor what their knowledge is about this. They're not recommending this. And I think eventually, with the numbers of children who are improving, they will have to start saying, hey, let's try this. But no, she did not say no, but she did not know a thing about it. And so I just kind of went in. I said, this is what we're going to do. Here's some documentation and some scientific studies that have been done, and I kind of went in with my mind made up. I didn't go in, meek and questioning, because I knew this wasn't her realm of, knowledge. So I recommend that to new parents. If you're not going to this person this isn't a cannabis doctor. And then it was hard we were the youngest that I know of in the state to get that recommendation for cannabis. So it was hard for me to find a doctor. I had a lot of closed doors. A lot of doctors were not willing to recommend this for the card for a 5-year-old. And so I just pushed, and we found Dr. Shackelford. He's a Harvard-educated doctor. I'm sure you guys know Shackelford. And he was all on board because he believes in it. And he knows that there's a chance that this could work, and it's a very worthwhile thing. The child can't really... That placebo effect isn't so evident in the child because she's just 5. She's nonverbal at 5. She can't. She doesn't know she's getting medicine, so she can't fake the effect. So to answer your question, no, my doctor did not know a thing about it, but I resolved my mind first before I went to them, and here we are.
Well, again, kudos, because as folks will hear if I ramble in a minute. You have to go to mainstream medicine with that attitude. They don't listen. They're always right. Conventional, treatment is the only way. And right. The strong majority of them, I'll say. Occasionally I'll meet a physician or a surgeon who will impress me by being rather knowledgeable, but it's very rare. I had issues as well. So, I mean, everything else is going good. Charlotte, obviously, again, there's no side effects from cannabis, really. She may get sleepy from time to time, which may be a good thing for mom and dad, right?
Well, you know what? Strangely, she isn't sleep. She sleeps at night. She just goes to bed and sleeps all night and wakes up in the morning like a normal. She sleeps deep and there's no seizures. And it's very evident after all these years. I can tell if she's having absence or little tiny seizures in the night. She's not having any nocturnal seizures, and she doesn't nap anymore. She's not sleepy, and it's actually made her more focused. It's like the brain is just firing all over the place all day long, and the cannabis seems to, instead of dull her down and make her zoning out, it kind of slows down the overfiring, makes her focus. So there's eye contact and there's focus, and she can learn again. So I expected some sleepiness and drowsiness, but it's been the opposite, except at night. So I don't know. I can't think of an argument against it. I've just seen nothing but perfect result, awesome results. It's just that fear that people have to get over, I guess.
Hey, Paige, Josh here. She's you sent us a video of her laughing and acting like she was drinking out of the dog dish. And then and then she's talking. She said the word dust, you know. Can you elaborate on that? Had she ever done anything like that before?
Well, these kids go through regressions, or at least my daughter has gone through a lot of regressions. So she had a full vocabulary, and she would talk in sentences, and then she would lose it, and then she'd gain it back and lose it again. And then this last year was her worst, and she just went down to nothing, to no words. And so I'd say about a word. She's gaining about a word a week at this point. And I really think it's just that focus from whether it's she's off the drugs that were harming her, and not that all drugs are harmful, but for Charlotte, the drugs were just very, very bad for her. And I don't know if it's the lack of drugs, and I know that it's part of this, that focus that she has and the lack of seizures, but she is learning and gaining and growing, and her therapists, her speech therapists they can see it. They can see right there firsthand that this is working. And yeah, she's just making huge gains right now. It's been incredible to watch.
That's incredible. I'm kind of speechless, to be honest. This is a story that gives me chills. I am pretty good friends with Mike Hyde and his family, so I followed Cassie Hyde's story, and it's similar in the aspect that, the poor kid had been through so much chemo and narcotics and just was, 40 days with no food type deal. And any time that you see a drastic turnaround like that, it has to touch your heart. If it doesn't touch your heart, I'm not sure that you have a heart.
Yeah.
So, Paige, I would love to have you in studio anytime you want. We'll get you back on and chat some more and check on Charlotte. I have a favor to ask of you, and that's just please keep spreading the word, because there are so many parents, in the Midwest and the South that don't know how safe this medicine is, and their children are suffering as we're talking because of that. So, thank you for all that you guys are doing, and give Charlotte a big hug from Overgrow the Radio and our whole crew here.
All right. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon. Enjoy your evening.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. So, wow, what do you say to that?
Well, you said it. I mean, it gives you chills. It's tough for me because for the first time, for example, that Charlotte sent over, we have a lot of video of Charlotte seizing when she was in that before the meds. And then I have video after, laughing, talking, playing. And the first time I saw that, I get teary-eyed right now. First time I saw that.
Real men cry, by the way.
Real men cry. What was that on the Big Lebowski? Real men also cry.
Yes, exactly.
This man does. So I was 30 minutes late to my appointment, when I saw that, as I just couldn't stop. And I think more and more people are seeing that, and that's really become a focal mission for the realm of caring. Our goal is to raise $6 million in the next year. And we have about, there's hundreds of cases around the world that are waiting to come to Colorado. It's expensive. $6 million can bring a lot of kids here. and I want to treat them all. I want to make a Gesundheit Patch Adams Institute for children with epilepsy. That's our goal, and that's for the direction of the realm. Not to say we're not going to stop treating these other diseases, absolutely not. But this is one that, you know, when you give a child a new start, okay, when you can bring that child back and they start to not only have a life again, but their vocabulary comes back, their motor skills, they're able to play with kids. Charlotte, I don't know if we said it tonight, but Charlotte's she's in daycare for the first time in her life. Sure. I mean, we're talking, she said 99% seizures gone. What can we do for all these children? There's thousands of children across the globe, and that's just Dravet, okay? We got Dew syndrome, we've got the typical forms of epilepsy, and how many can we help? I mean, it's limitless.
Well, and from the other side, you know, the feds and the lawmakers see these stories and see these videos. It really shows you how heartless our lawmakers are. I just will throw that out there, in the fact that there's no compassion for these children, because across the United States, as you're talking about, there's children suffering. The realm does need help, but in the grand scheme of things, we won't be able to move them all to Colorado. There's circumstances where parents can't move, that type of thing. You know, we're
working to bring it to them. You know,
right?
This is the line. Okay, I'm very respectful of the law. I'm very respectful of our government until it comes to kids like Charlotte. Okay, there's a kid. Okay, picture this in your mind. You have Charlotte that lives in Denver. 99% of her seizures are gone. You have another child with the same affliction that lives 1 mile over the border in Nebraska. And that child has to die and suffer because we're so damn ignorant that we can't lay our pride, lay our money down. We treat health as a commodity. Health is traded on the stock market. Through pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies. We build more private prisons in this country than we build hospitals. That's an evidence of a sick society, and I've had it. And so if we have to break our backs to get it to them somehow through legal channels, that's what we're going to work to do. Because what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong, and where we're at right now, we are dead wrong.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm not even really going to follow up her segment with my story. You know, I will say that I am a pain patient of the realm. And it does, you know, the only reason I want to jump into it briefly is because it does help so many. It helps the children with their Dravet's. You know, you're going to make me emotional if I go off too much on the fact that we can't go across to Nebraska or Kansas or any of the states around us for that matter, well, to the south maybe, and help these kids. It's horrifying to me. It's something that has to change. You know, all we can do is keep doing what we're doing. You know, there's nothing more we can do. The more we talk, the more we get it out there, the more people listen, the more people talk to their friends. That's the way it's going to happen. And there are people, you know, you guys have a project that we're going to get you back on to talk about, you're getting ready to do. There are obviously receptive lawmakers out there in these other states. So the tide, I think, man, I see a tiny little pinprick of light at the end of the tunnel. But we've got a long way to go. There's no doubt.
We do, but guess what? You can't put this genie back in the bottle. You can't put this water back in the dam. You can't do it. It's happening. The tide is coming in. We're not going away. We're only getting stronger. And, you know, whether we get stronger as a united front, united community, learning to agree to disagree, but coming together as a united front and one voice, until that happens, guys, we're going to be viewed as activist haters out there. And we're disorganized, and that's how they discredit us, because we're not standing as one. And I don't give a damn if it's you that wants to sit and grow in your basement. That's fine. Who cares? You can do that. But stop fighting the regulated side. And the regulated side, stop throwing stones at the other side. Come together. This is about health and healing. This is not about you.
Absolutely, sir. I couldn't agree more. And I think, you know, I'll add to that I ran it. I had Drew Milburn in for his segment a couple of weeks ago, and we spent 45 minutes on the whole 64 thing. There was an argument on Facebook that was literally talked about in Westward and The Independent that I unfortunately was stupid enough to get involved in. But anyway, the thing of it is, we live in a society where you don't get everything you want when you pass a law or an initiative. Period. You don't. There's no perfect law. No law has ever been passed that has been perfect. The only way to get anything done in this, I'll say, sick society is to take a little tiny baby step and then scratch and claw for the next step. You know, one of the biggest oppositions that I've heard out of the No on 64 folks is, well, you know, you can't change it. How soon do we forget about 1284? Was that not a change to a constitutional amendment? I mean, I guess I'm not going to get sidetracked there. Point being, what you just said, man, we have got to work together as a community. No, it's not perfect. You know, I was a no vote for a long time until I really researched and thought about it. Now I absolutely back 64. I respect everything that Mason and everyone is doing. I wish the other side, you know, I was also in support of some of the other initiatives. I wish that instead of those folks, instead of bashing the people with the initiative on the ballot, it would be really, really nice to have their support, have those voices out there talking about the positives. Because I'm yet to hear an argument that can convince me that this is not, in some form, a good thing.
Well, it is a good thing, and you know what? It's not just people coming to support. If you don't want to support it, don't support it. But stop talking bad about it.
Absolutely.
Then we fight against each other, and then we're an industry that's chasing its damn tail.
Absolutely.
And that and the legislators, you know, I deal with them all the time, like it or not. That's why a lot of people hate me. Fine, whatever. You know what? They tell me point blank, Josh, this industry is batshit crazy. And I look at them and I say, what am I going to say? You know, they're like, you know, what you have to do is get them all together. Oh, okay. I said, how about this? How about we just start treating people and then calculating the results? Mm-hmm. And we move our direction. I don't pay any attention to these people anymore. And the way I look at it is, and I hope other people can look at it this way. People always come to me and they always say, gosh, you know, you have so many enemies. And I look at them and I say, no, I don't have any enemies. I don't have one enemy. Well, yes, you do. So many people hate you, but I don't hate them. See, that's the difference. I don't give them power over anything that I do. I don't give a damn. I don't talk about them. You know, they can talk about me all they want. I got blinders on, and I'm going in the direction of helping people like Charlotte. Everybody else ought to jump on that train as well.
And absolutely, sir. I actually, I woke up this morning to a rash of hate mail, and I'm in the same mindset. I've got broad shoulders for a reason. Don't care. Say what you want. But I posted, you know, my haters. But my quote is, if you don't have haters, you're not doing enough in life. But, you know, there was a little conversation afterwards, and I actually used, you and I talked the other day, and you told me that, and I actually used that. I called you a friend, but, you know, I didn't give you exact quotes, but I used a similar, you know, sentence along those lines. And that's absolutely true. You cannot feed into the negativity. Negativity is, in fact, a cancer in the truest form, and it will eat a movement, any movement from the inside out. We saw it, you know, most recently with the Occupy movement in a lot of the cities. A lot of organizations have went by the wayside. A lot of great movements in our society have faltered because of this. We're going to take our 8 o'clock break, I think, and make my back better. But, you know, on that note, I'm just going to reiterate one more time what you said. Let's all come together. Let's, you know, honor the Beatles and try to be one in this movement and move forward and get something done, for God's sakes.
Amen.
So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Enjoy some tunes and hang out, and we love you.
It's 303-831-8188 or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20 of 2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley brothers directly through email. You can get us at gratefuljosh@hotmail.com. Now come on, Colorado. We need to take care of each other. Join the Realm. That's realmofcaring.com. Thank you so much.
The Hemp Connoisseur is Colorado's premier guide to hemp culture. Our mission is to elevate the image of the medical cannabis and hemp industries to create widespread widespread acceptance of the cannabis sativa plant. You can find the latest issue of the Hemp Connoisseur at more than 200 7-Elevens, your favorite dispensary, MMJ doctor offices, and tattered covered bookstores. Do you consider yourself a cannabis connoisseur? Then come be a part of the Hemp Connoisseur's first Cannabis Championship. Visit us at thcmag.com for info on how to sample the best medicine Colorado has to offer.
That Mad Hatter Smoke Shop has everything from space glass to butane and butane accessories, I tell you what. Located at 6091 West Colfax in Lakewood, and now at 2615 Walnut Street in Denver. Ah! God damn it, Reclaim, put your pants back on.
My name is Gary Johnson. Today I reach out to you, members of all political parties. I reach out to everyone with a vote and an axe to grind. From the Tea Party, the Constitution Party, the Green and Libertarian parties, I call out to all of you, including the disaffected and disillusioned among the Republicans and Democrats. Today, there's a handful of people in Washington ruining America for 330 million of us. They've kept our nation in a state of perpetual war and increasing unsustainable debt. This small group has presided over the elimination of our Bill of Rights and the systematic dismantling of our freedoms guaranteed us under our Constitution. It is them we should be fighting, not each other. We the people will never agree on the small things, but let's agree on the big thing. Our leaders have blown it. If we don't get control of this ship together and fix it together, we all go down with it together. I ask you to join me in trying something that's never been attempted before in America. Let's put our parties and our differences aside one time. Be libertarian with me for one election. Together, we'll stop the spending and end the wars. Together, we'll rebuild our own roads, bridges, schools, and hospitals instead of building theirs half a world away. Together, we'll restore our industrial might and our economy. And if in 4 years we as a people decide we don't like peace, prosperity, and freedom, we can always vote tyranny back into office again. America is better and brighter than this.
Stick with me.
Be libertarian with me this one time, and I'll prove it to you.
Okay.
Live free.
Yeah, man, that's what it's really all about, is living free. I brought my buddy Sam the intern up to the mic. I think that's going to be your new name, sir, if you're okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Right on, brother. We wanted Sam to be able to hear these great guests that we're going to be talking to in the second half of the show. I think we've got our first one on the phone. Are you there, Miss Rebecca?
Yes, I am. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, we're doing great. We're like half a mile high, I determined at the beginning of the show. We're not really a mile high quite yet. Maybe after the show when I get home. Oh, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. We cut out for a second. So first off, well, let me introduce you. Rebecca Forbes, you're a board member of mine on Overgrow the Government. You also, well, you tell me, because you wear many hats like a lot of us do.
Yeah, I started out with the Carolina Cannabis Coalition under the American Cannabis Coalition a couple years ago, and I had formerly worked for the North Carolina Cannabis Patients Network. But I branched out. I was listening to y'all talk about unity, basically to unify and start a coalition that covered hemp, adult usage, and also medical marijuana. And then after I had done that, I think was shortly after that, you kind of asked me to come in on Overgrow, and I've been with you now for a couple years.
Absolutely. You're my, I'm just going to jump in and say you're my right hand. I mean, you're the closest one to DC. And also to add that, you know, unity is just it. I mean, that was our one pillar really with Overgrow, was to bring the whole cannabis hemp world together.
Yeah, on all levels, because sometimes the recreational people don't really understand what we're doing medically. And then at times, you know, I don't think some of the medical people understand that even recreational users have a right to enjoy cannabis without being persecuted.
No, absolutely. As you know well, we're about to pass that measure here in our wonderful state of Colorado in November.
That's awesome. I think that's awesome. I wish North Carolina could put something on the ballot like that, but we don't have that option here.
Do you guys have anything going this year with medical at all?
I believe that we are going to reintroduce the medical bill here for the third time in the state. We have a lot of alcohol and pharma lobbyist opposition here. North Carolina is home of Duke University, and many famous people come there for treatment.
Sure.
We have UNC Hospitals, which is another big name in cancer treatment. And we have a lot of big lobbyists here. I even went to the head of Duke Oncology with my situation and was ignored. So we have a lot of opposition here, but hopefully third time's going to be a charm.
That's what they say. And it's also, people don't realize, and a lot of it's gone, but it's still sort of a stronghold for the tobacco industry. Kentucky, North Carolina, West Virginia, that area right there. And
Yeah.
so, there's a lot of lobbyists from so many angles coming at you guys. You guys have a tough fight there.
Yeah, and in the southern states, nobody's legal yet. So here we sit in the Bible Belt with not a single legal state yet, and legal states popping up all around us, the closest being D.C. at this point.
Absolutely. Speaking of D.C., ma'am, we're not going to get to our event yet. I've got another thing I want to talk to you about. You just made a trip up to D.C., I guess sort of as a representative of Overgrow, but to the DNC, not to the DNC, and not to D.C., I'm sorry. Up the road to Charlotte. My bad. Let me rephrase that.
I organized an event at the Democratic National Convention, and I applied for a permit for the public speaking platform, and I just want to say that I'm also real proud of Normal because they got Gary Johnson out there to speak.
Nice. We had his running mate on last week.
Oh, yeah. And so Gary was there, and he was actually giving out business cards for a pack of Gary Johnson rolling papers. So I thought that was pretty cool. A couple people got those.
That's awesome.
But we represented at the Democratic National. I was a little disappointed where they put the public speaking platform because it was nowhere near a politician.
Sure. Probably way behind police lines and barricades and across the park and over the river and, through the woods.
No, there were no police there. There were a few city officials at the platform. It was stuck in a back lot way in the back corner of all the activity. So basically you didn't even have any foot traffic going by. So I was a little disappointed.
Yeah, I'm sure there was some planning that went into that. I don't know your opinion on that, but I'm going to guess there was some overpaid federal employee that stood out there and said, where can we put these activist folks that want to be trouble? And
anti-Obama speakers. I know that there were a few Ron Paul people there that got permits, and so there were some people there that were there to yell at Obama, but I wasn't there to yell at him. I was there to try to educate him a little bit and get him to understand what's going on in the movement. The story about the child earlier, that kind of stuff really gets me because I know mothers and talk with mothers every day that are using cannabis in the legal states for their children with awesome results.
Sure. I mean, what do you do?
It's very sad that people can't be open-minded enough to understand what we discovered out here in the community about cannabis without their help, basically.
And kudos to you guys because in a sense, I look at myself as sort of taking a cowardly way out in that I did move to Colorado to be quote-unquote quasi-legal. Before that, I had no choice but to break an unjust law. And I mean, who in their right mind, someone suffering or someone watching their child suffer, once you go through pharmacopoeia and the hell that it is, and you're a zombie and you're sick and it's killing you. Once you go through that, it doesn't take a lot of common sense to pick cannabis. It really, really doesn't.
No, and I hear a lot of people say with pain, and I know that you live in a lot of pain, that it doesn't necessarily kill the pain like a narcotic will and throw you into zombie land, but you just think about it. You can go on about your business, and basically be pain-free. It's like you don't focus on the pain anymore.
Absolutely. Well, and I like to say, I mean, I went basically, and at some point in the show, maybe a year or two in, I'll tell my full story. I tell pieces here and there. But basically, long story short, with cannabis, I went from 11 prescriptions, basically now down to 1. And a fraction of that 1 compared to what I took at one time. But the 1 is still a pain med. And, you know, the thing that I see with cannabis is there's really no need for all the anti-inflammatories, muscle relaxers. You know, they put you on nerve relaxers, antidepressants that they say help the pain. It's ridiculous. I went to my doctor at one point and said, you know, I'm sick, my stomach, I'm always nauseous. He's like, got out his pad, you know, here's another pill, this will help you. So,
Yeah.
And what I didn't point out earlier is that a lot of the stigma in the medical community comes from the fact that somewhere around 90 to 95% of all of physicians after they get out of college, all of their furthering education or whatever the proper term is paid for and basically put on by the pharmaceutical companies. They don't take continuing education classes through universities for the most part. The pharmaceutical companies come in and teach them what pills cures what. And that's...
I don't even know what's in those pills, really, because if you really talk to a doctor, they have no idea. They just know that Prozac is good for mental illness, that ADD medications are good for ADD. They don't really know what's in those medications. And that really bothers me, that a doctor can so write a prescription not knowing what they're giving you to put down your throat.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no ingredients listed on that stuff. And, you know, as we hit on earlier, I'm on a big push out here. We have the capability, we are legal, that everyone should be testing their medicine before they really call it medicine. You know, it's pretty simple. If you can go spend a minimal amount of money and secure the fact that you know what you're giving to your patients, peace of mind is worth it, you know. We've got to jump in, Miss Rebecca, and talk about our event. You know, I've had the Moms for Marijuana side on for the last few weeks, so I figured I would bring someone from Overgrow. As I told Candace, I'm not going to be attending, as you know. You're, again, my right hand. I'm sure everything will be smooth. It sounds like Dana's going to attend and some other folks from Overgrow as well. You guys kind of wear dual hats, though, because I think you're also Moms for Marijuana. So fill us in. I mean, is there a speakers list yet for this event?
Yes, there is a speaker list on the Moms for Marijuana regional conference in D.C. on Facebook. You can probably type in any Moms for Marijuana page and find the event. We're going to have one of the people, Michael Krawitz, that's testifying in the federal hearings the next day, has agreed to come out and speak, so that's going to be exciting. We're also going to, again, have Sean Dunnigan, who's former DEA that quit his job in 2010.
He was a former senior intelligence analyst for the DEA, which is that's a pretty long, impressive title. He must have been important.
I have high respect for Sean, and I think that
great guy.
Working with Overgrow has opened his eyes a little bit to what's really going on medically, because he's a big advocate for ending the drug war in general. But I think that we've opened his eyes a little bit to what some of us are doing medically, and he's got a lot of respect for us, and I'm glad to have him on board. I think Wayward Bill's going to be there again to speak from the Marijuana Party.
Right on. We know Bill. He's a local. He's one of us locals here in Colorado.
Yep, and of course I'll be speaking. And then I think we're trying to get representatives from all of the major orgs, ASA, MPP, NORML. And this, again, is an attempt to create some unity in the movement.
Sure. You know, I know we get some support, and I'll just put it out there from MPP in a lot of ways. Historically, with Overgrow, we have a go-to guy there, and I apologize. I'll put you in touch with him off the air. But they, you know, a lot of those organizations, and this is a debate I just had that we sort of talked about in a roundabout way earlier. You know, they're a suit and tie, so I know with the Overgrow, you know, it was more, we started anyway in our name there was that stigma of sort of a fringe, overgrow the government. But really what people don't understand is it's overgrow with knowledge and facts and teach people and that type of thing. But that being said, they have been very valuable in the past. Actually, one of our after parties was courtesy of them. So they are there for us. I understand their place. Now, the other organizations I can't speak for. I know I've also tried in the past to get them out, so I'm not sure. We'll just call them out and say they should be out there. We should be one big happy family. The thing I've seen with DC historically is folks don't get out. But we're quickly running out of time, and if I don't call the good doctor, he gets testy with me. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
Bob's a great guy. But anyway, we're going to get you guys back on. We'll try to get you back on at least, after to give us a recap type deal. And I promise next time I will be in D.C., and everyone can follow the event on the Moms for Marijuana Facebook pages or Overgrow pages or anything of that nature. So
they want to check in and make sure that their state has a patch for the quilt. If they see their state not listed, it would be a great idea to. We want every state in the country represented on that quilt that day.
Right on. So. Absolutely. I agree. And it, kudos and good luck. And be safe. Don't get felt up like I did the last time I was there. Those cops like to get friendly with everyone.
Be okay.
Right on. All right, ma'am. Well, you guys have a great night, and we'll get you back on here soon.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I think what we'll do is take a really quick commercial break and stick around because next we have the good Dr. Robert Melamede, in my opinion, one of the foremost researchers in the field of cannabis and cannabis studies, if you will. We love you. We'll be right back here on iCannabisRadio.com's Overgrow the Radio.
The law offices of Edson, Maton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20 of 2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley brothers directly through email. You can get us at gratefuljosh@hotmail.com. Now come on, Colorado. We need to take care of each other. Join the Realm. That's realmofcaring.com. Thank you so much.
The Hemp Connoisseur is Colorado's premier guide to hemp culture. Our mission is to elevate the image of the medical cannabis and hemp industries to create widespread acceptance of the cannabis sativa plant. You can find the latest issue of the Hemp Connoisseur at more than 200 7-Elevens, your favorite dispensary, MMJ doctor offices, and tattered covered bookstores. Do you consider yourself a cannabis connoisseur? Then come be a part of the Hemp Connoisseur's first cannabis championship. Visit us at thcmad.com for info on how to sample the best medicine Colorado has to offer.
That Mad Hatter Smoke Shop has everything from space glass to butane and butane accessories, I tell you what. Located at 6091 West Colfax in Lakewood, and now at 2615 Walnut Street in Denver. Ah! God damn it, Reclaim, put your pants back on.
Hi, I'm Josh Stanley.
And I'm Jesse Stanley.
Two of the brothers here from National Geographic's American Weed, and we'd like to invite you to come into our dispensaries in Dispensary in Colorado Springs. Come in for the most pure organic strain selection in Colorado. It's all hand-grown by the Stanley brothers, especially for our patients. So come in and visit us at our two locations, East Platte and West Colorado. And remember,
always be kind to each other.
I think we're back making some radio at Overgrow the Radio. I'm really excited about our next guest. We had a show, as I said earlier, that didn't get aired a few weeks ago, a month 2 months ago now, I guess. Wow, time flies, Sam. And basically this is a repeat. So I was excited to talk to Dr. Bob back then, so now we're going to get him back on. He was on the show a ways back with Bob Kraus. We talked a little bit of science, but there's so much to talk about. It's pretty amazing. So Dr. Robert Melamede is CEO of Cannabis Science. He's also a professor at UCCS down in the Springs. He teaches a class, and he could probably tell you the exact name, but it's something like Medical Marijuana 101, kind of like our parent company. And, he's just an amazing guy. He's been, at the biochemistry level, he's been studying cannabis for some time. And that absolutely is where the baseline science comes from for everything, for medicine, for what the doctors base their diagnosis on. So let's see if we can get him.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Melamede. How are you this evening?
I'm good, and how are you, Stick Man?
We're doing great, man. We're just hanging out, having a good time. You know how life is up here in Denver. I was just giving you a brief introduction, and I did, address you as the doctor instead of Mr. You do have your PhD, and you're my neighbor down in the Springs. I mentioned that. You teach at UCCS, and you'll have to correct me. A lot of people out of state, I like to talk about how you teach kind of a medical marijuana 101 class, but I'm not sure the proper name of that.
It's called endocannabinoids and medical marijuana.
Beautiful. I think I'm going to sign up. I think I need to come in for a semester and just hang out and take some notes. Well, I'm honored, and I want to start off by apologizing because I was just saying about a month ago we had a show that technology fooled us on, so we missed out with a conversation with you. And we could spend hours. I mean, you were on, I believe, with Mr. Kraus at one point for a little bit, and it was really just a teaser on the science side of things. I personally, we've spent the evening, we had Josh Stanley in, and we've talked about oil patients and some amazing stories. Paige, Figi, and her daughter Charlotte, who has Dravet syndrome, and just the 180 that little girl has done with the help of the oil. And I said in your introduction that really what you study is the baseline for all medicine, the biochemistry side of it, which, I'm going to sound like an idiot. That's where I turn it over to you. But it's really important, I think, to get your perspective to really understand why it helps these conditions. You're the one, in my opinion, who has done the most research into some of these topics. So I'm going to kind of jump in if that's cool with you.
Cool with me.
Right on, brother. I have someone very close to me who may or may not be dealing with MS. And, I want to premise this, Bob, by saying I read this study out of the UK, which I always laugh because it's always like reefer madness there. And it says, the headline is THC does not help MS. And then if you read the article, it goes on to basically say that doesn't mean the other compounds in cannabis don't help MS. And it also says, that that's the first study that's ever shown this. So I really want to just be very general and broad and get your opinion. I know you've observed oil treatments with cancer, and we're going to get there, but your opinion on some of these other conditions in the treatment of oil.
Well, I have to reread that specific article, so it's not on the tip of my brain. But certainly THC does have a neuroprotective effect. THC and the CB1 receptors, which are the ones that get you high and are, the major, actually, neurotransmitter system in your brain, do have a profound effect on MS from the point of view of protecting the nerve itself directly. On the other hand, it's probably CB2-mediated immunological responses that maybe buffer some of the pro-inflammatory activity that's associated with the destruction of the nerves. And THC acts on the CB2 receptors as well. So I think that there's multifaceted mechanisms by which cannabinoids regulate the inflammatory process that is at the heart of nerve cell death, essentially. And so, there's a lot of physiological manifestations that occur above the molecular mechanisms. The molecular mechanisms underlie what we see at the macroscopic level. So MS, can have pain associations and, of course, spasticity and muscle cramping. And I certainly remember from Cheryl Miller, her and her husband were activists. She was in a very severe state of MS deterioration, and she would go into severe muscle spasms that would just totally bind her up and be incredibly painful. And she just needed to take a couple of drags, and that would relax those spasms, and there's nothing else that would do that. So there are many ways to look at how cannabis can impact on MS and, in fact, anything else.
Sure.
Because of the fact that our endocannabinoid system, the cannabis-like compounds that we produce in our body, the reality is that they regulate everything in our body. So from the time of birth until the time of death, literally all of our body systems, our immune system, digestive system, cardiovascular, muscular, skeletal, all of our body systems are homeostatically regulated by cannabinoids. And by homeostatically, I mean a dynamic balance. Because we're dealing with flowing biochemistry, and that flowing biochemistry can, in general, either be pro or anti-inflammatory. It's like a thermostat on your wall. You have a setting for the heat. Well, we've got settings, thousands of them, in terms of generating free radicals and inflammatory reactions. So that's what we're dealing with at this point. And the question is, can resetting the thermostat be beneficial for people with MS or, in fact, most other illnesses? And I think the answer is unambiguously yes.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I know about MS, it's more about, really ruling out other diseases. And it's a disease really that is just a bunch of random symptoms, it seems, kind of thrown together. And I think...
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, there's a clear death of nerve cells. And it's associated with demyelination. Myelin is the insulator, essentially, around your nerves. View your nerves as wires, because actually they are carrying biological electricity, essentially. Mm-hmm. And the windings around them, the myelin sheath, is very much involved, on the one hand, with the neuroconduction. But on the other hand, it also has protective effects, so that as demyelination starts to occur as a result of the autoimmunity, in other words, the immune system attacking the myelin sheath, that ultimately leads to the death of the nerve cell itself. And as you start to accumulate the loss of those nerve cells, then you lose functionality. You get plaques, holes in your brain, essentially, where the neurons have died off. So a lot is known about what's going on there. There are other things that can mimic some of these symptoms. So there's a lot of things that can kill your nerve cells.
Sure.
But ultimately, they have common denominators. And the common denominator for most things in life, for most age-related illnesses, is essentially excessive free radical production.
Let's talk about preventative medicine. Let's get sidetracked for just a second with you, and then we'll jump back on another major disease. I personally say all the time that I see cannabis as my multivitamin, and you and I have talked, and you're familiar with the fact that I use oil, and I consume a pretty high dosage in a day of cannabis and oil. And I am a firm believer that because of what you just described, the way that everything is controlled by an endocannabinoid system, that folks without some sort of, now maybe not necessarily cannabis, but hemp products or cannabis products, the folks that aren't using those in some form, there's some, to an extent, a deficiency, if you will. I find, really, since I've been on elevated dose that I don't get things like colds, flus, headaches. You know, the list goes on and on. I mean, I'm pretty healthy, knock on wood. Do you see is there any basis behind that at all?
Absolutely. One of the things that, you know, a couple of the things that are well documented that relate to this is if you make a knockout mouse, that's a mouse where you eliminate a particular gene, all right? So you can eliminate, for example, the CB1 receptor, the one that gets you high. And those mice die prematurely. So that basically tells you that you have to be able to get high in order to live a normal lifespan. And part of what's going on there is that receptor, even when not stimulated by its ligand, the ligand is something that binds to a receptor, okay? So THC is the ligand for the CB1 receptor. So even when you're not having anything bound to that receptor, the receptor is already turned on to a certain degree. So it's got a natural, we all have a natural level of CB1 stimulation. And that's essential for health because if you make the knockout mice, they die prematurely. So that's telling you we have to be able to get high, essentially.
Sure. Well, let me, if I can real quick, Dr. Bob, let me try to dumb that down and see if I'm correct in the fact that basically the receptors are kind of looking for the cannabis in your body.
No, they act as though they already found some.
Gotcha. See, I was a little confused, so I'm learning as we go here.
Yeah, no, there's what we call a tonic activity. So that in the absence of any stimulation, there's always a certain amount of activity that seems to be going on. Hold on a second. What? No, I didn't want to be talking and keeping you awake. Go ahead inside. I'll be right back. That's my little boys. They're going to sleep now.
Yeah. I've got a 9-year-old.
Anyway,
I appreciate
you know, that tonic level of activity does a lot of things in terms of maintaining, for example, our level of happiness. So it's essentially, view it as a thermostat on the wall that has a certain setting naturally, even without a lot of extra stimulation. And depending on where that thermostat is set, in terms of your natural cannabinoid activity, which is going to include natural stimulation as well, because we make our endocannabinoids, we make the equivalent of THC. It's not the same chemical, but it works on the receptors and does the same thing. So that, for example, people who are depressed typically need to increase the thermostat that's controlling their endocannabinoid activity. It's like, you know, they need to up that activity. And that's true for many, many different things because of how it is regulating everything. So many of, I would say, in fact, all autoimmune and all cardiovascular disease and all neurological dysfunction and cancers, in fact, have as their basis free radical production. It's why all age-related illnesses are related to free radicals. That's the basis of aging in many respects. And it's a fairly complicated issue to explain that in a meaningful way, but in fact, that seems to be what's true. I also teach a course on aging. I also teach a course on immunology. And I integrate all of these courses based on energy flow, coming from a field known as far from equilibrium thermodynamics, which simply means energy flow. And one of the basic principles of that field of science, which was pioneered by Nobel laureate Ilya Prigogine, he created the field literally the year I was born, 1947 is when he got his PhD in it. And basically what it says is that flowing energy organizes matter. So when you have the prebiotic soup that leads to the evolution of life, that's an example of organized matter created by flowing energy. And eventually that organized matter gets complicated enough that you have a new emergent phenomena, something new and not linearly related to the past. And that is the emergence of life. And then that process of building biological complexity on the planet continues And that's what's underlying evolution. And now within us as human beings, we've embraced that spirit of change to the highest degree, in that our immune system and our nervous system, which are the two systems that monitor what comes into us, because we're all basically collections of molecules, and our immune system monitors the mass that comes into us via the food we eat and via insect bites or inhaling a flu virus. Those are examples of matter that comes into our system, and that's monitored by the immune system, whereas information that comes in terms of sight, sound, smells, touch, that's all monitored by the nervous system. So those two systems are critical in that they essentially monitor everything that comes into us. And in doing that, if those systems are successful, they're minimizing the stress that's created by change. And the change is either matter coming in or information coming in. And our endocannabinoid system is totally critical in how we are able to biologically deal with the biological stress that results from change.
Sure.
And our endocannabinoid system is essentially the ultimate regulator of stress on a subcellular level, on a cellular level, on a tissue level, on an organismic level, and I would extend that all the way to the population. And I would, and the stress of a population is relieved by cannabis. And that's why it's very critical right now that the population increase the thermostat for cannabinoid activity. And that leads us to, the blip-flip arguments that I've made, backward-looking versus forward-looking people, and how the world has typically been dominated by unhigh people, blips, backward-looking people,
I love it,
who don't have enough cannabinoid activity to appropriately adapt to change without it being overly stressful. So they want to create a future that's the same as the past, because that way they don't have to experience change, which they don't biologically feel good about because they don't have enough cannabinoids. So the forward-looking people have enough cannabinoids, and that's one of the symptoms, so to speak, of cannabis users. They're optimistic. And what does optimism mean? It means you look into the future and you're confident, essentially. You're biologically confident that you're going to be able to adapt to the future, and you actually embrace change. So right now, in order for mankind to survive, because of the huge impact we're having on our environment, we have to have people in authority who are making policies be open-minded enough and therefore have sufficient cannabinoid activity that they can take in the information as it's generated by scientists around the world in all the different fields and integrate that into policies so that we can make policies designed for the survival of the species rather than sticking our heads in a dark place, be it, an ostrich with its head in the ground or a politician with a head up his ass. We've got to be able to take in the information, be intelligent about it, and make policies that make sense. If we look back at the history of humanity, there are very few leaders that are essentially flips, forward-looking people. We've got Gandhi, we've got Christ, we've got Mandela, we've got Martin Luther King, and then all the rest of them. We got Hitler and Genghis Khan, and throughout history they've been cannabinoid-deprived, unhigh, angry, hostile people.
Yeah, Hitler liked meth. So I hear Hitler liked amphetamines. He maybe should have went the other way.
Well, Hitler and all the rest of them, they were all drinking or doing whatever they were doing, but they weren't using enough cannabis to get enlightenment. They never had the cannabis awakening, which promotes self-reflection. You see, self-reflection is what allows the system to change in a nonlinear way. It's what allows us to, at some point when we learn something new and understand something for the first time, what's called the aha phenomena, where, you either don't understand or you do understand, and you build up information, and all of a sudden you go, aha, I got it. Well, that's embracing change and having a new level of understanding and consciousness about whatever the issue is. And that's what has to occur on a population-wide level. And we're seeing it happen now in the sense that more and more people are recognizing the medical value of cannabis, and the people in the various states that have demanded it, because most of the cannabis movement is not powered by legislation, it's rather powered by the people in their own initiative, because we're so buffered, unfortunately, from our legislators by money and power, that if mankind is going to survive, we have to replace the blips that have run the world historically, the unhigh people, with people who are a little bit higher, people who are more open-minded, more gentle, more cooperative in spirit, and more enlightened population. And once we reach a critical level, we'll see the change occur on a population-wide fashion that will promote a higher level of harmony, not only within humanity, but between humanity and our environment, which is totally critical for our own survival.
Well, and that's a whole other side. You know, every time I have a conversation with you, I walk away with my head spinning a little bit, and I know I've learned a lot that I'm going to not remember, but I'm going to be able to go back and watch this, so I'll be able to cheat.
Well, I do have about 30 YouTubes out there, so if you punch in, Dr. Bob Melamede, you'll be able to access all of these concepts in different YouTubes. Just I put them out there so that people can evaluate what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying, for me, this is my reality. I'm a hardcore scientist. Everything I say, I can back up in one way or the other. So I just put it out there to get people thinking and for them to evaluate whether these things have meaning and benefit to them.
And I've seen
that it will.
I've seen you back it up in a court of law, very impressively, as a matter of fact. We actually have a viewer question, and I know we're running out of time, and we'll get you back on because there is a lot in the science realm that I don't know, I want to learn, my viewers want to learn, and that you know. But there is a question here from one of our viewers. She wants to ask, and I've heard of these, and I'm very vague on these. I've read a paper a long time ago, but Dr. Guzman, I'm sure you know that name. She's asking,
of course,
what your feelings are about the direct injection of tumors with oil or the likes of.
Well, I mean, quite clearly, he demonstrated in rats and mice that it's effective. He also did do a small clinical trial with a couple of patients that were on death's doorstep. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to give them cannabis, Mm-hmm. And there appears to have been beneficial effects. But, more to the point, I think Rick Simpson's discoveries of using high-dose cannabis to cure cancers is a reality. There's no question in my mind that many people are and have been able to cure their cancers, and I mean a whole variety of cancers, by going into that high-dose cannabis regime. Now, not everybody can tolerate that high dose. Mm-hmm. Most people, if they build up slowly, can. Some people can't. And if you're using a good quality oil, and I think that this is one of the critical things for people, that they use a good quality oil. I know that I get the ones that I use to help people with cancer. I've been getting out of currently, Cannabis Science had made our own, but at this point we have people who are able to supply us with a quality that's much cheaper than what we were able to produce by having it OEM'd essentially. But I know Rhino up in Denver has a very high-quality product, and some of the other dispensaries in Boulder, I forgot their names, also have that high-quality product. I know Mike Stetler down in Marisol and Pueblo has a high-quality product. He had, in fact, we contracted him to make stuff. He's got some very special strains that work excellently. So there are good people out there doing good things, using high-quality product. It's essential that you start with a high-quality product. If you got something that's loaded with pesticides and various insecticides, and those things are going to get concentrated potentially in the extract, and that's the last thing a person needs.
Absolutely.
So you gotta be able to know who you're dealing with and have people, righteous people, who are not just in this game for the money. Sadly, too many people are in this only for the money, but fortunately there are many who are conscious, true believers in the kinds of things that we're talking about, the benefits and knowing its impact on our society.
Well, and it's so refreshing to see so many more, not so many more, but the growing trend of folks offering oil. As you know, we have the Realm guys here that do a show on iCannabis Radio, and that's I'm getting oil, and that we've talked tonight with Josh about the importance of testing the product.
Yes.
Before
I think
it's
the Stanley
made.
brothers have been doing an incredibly good job with helping people. I mean, it's really a pleasure to know them.
Absolutely, I
even though I
consider
don't know
them
them
family.
well. I honor them.
Yeah. I just kind of cut you off, but I do consider them at this point to be very good friends, if not family. Like the rest of you all, we're all one big happy circle most of the time, anyway. But yeah, they are making strides, and we were really pitching tonight that the problem is we need all the dispensaries to come on board and throw some trim to people like Dr. Bob and Josh, who are, really helping people. So we are kind of running out of time, sir, but we've had your logo up all night, but I'm going to shout out your website, which is cannabisscience.com. And I encourage people not only to rewatch the show a couple times, because, I haven't known you that long, but I've known you long enough to learn that, as I said, I've heard a few of your stories a few times now, and by the second or third time, I understand them. So
it does take a while for some of the things, because it is a novel way of looking at life.
Sure.
And the role that the cannabinoids play. For those of you who do go to the Cannabis Science website, I must tell everybody that we've kind of toned it down a bit, because we've gotten extremely involved in Washington, D.C. right now. And I can't go into the details, but if you read our press releases, and you look at the people that have come on board, it's pretty impressive and pretty astounding. And the reason for that is some of the things that we're doing. And I had to, as much as I hate it, I had to tone down some of my activism, because
Sure.
in the long run, it's going to be beneficial to us all that I take this break from activism a little bit in order to bring on the rest of the world, the power structure, so to speak, in a fashion that we're now doing it.
Well, and we all walk that fine line. I sit on a couple boards where some of the other stuff I do is not really acceptable. So, I'm right there with you. We talked earlier, we're all in a big fishbowl in Colorado. So it's very important. And, I'm excited to have you back on and talk about that, and we'll just leave it at that. And I'm going to thank you. I may know a thing or two, and it's so exciting and so promising, and I hope you'll come back on when it happens and tell us all about it.
Well, the thing about the physics that guides my life, it's my religion essentially, is that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And in the cannabis movement, every one of us doing whatever we can do are the parts that make together the whole. And it's that whole that's going to bring about really the revolution of consciousness and of being that we all need.
Absolutely, sir. Well, we're going to get out of here.
You.
I'm sorry?
So I thank you.
Oh, well, you're plenty welcome. I like to talk, so it's really easy. We're going to get out of here, and I'm going to go back to my place of residence here in Denver, and I'm going to get the full mile high. I said earlier I was only half a mile high because, I wouldn't want to get one of those DUIDs and have to have Dr. Bob come teach him that I'm not impaired.
There's a new article that just came out that shows, out of Holland, that again showed cannabis users are safer drivers.
It's ridiculous, man. Let's just get you back on some night and just rant about the ridiculousness of some of this stuff. Bob, thank you again for everything you do. Keep up the great work, and we will talk to you soon. I'll let you get in there and make sure that little one's asleep.
All right. Good night to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. So, as always with a good conversation, we're going a few minutes over here. Sam, is your head spinning?
Oh, yeah.
Would you like to Would you like to go to college down there just for a semester to jump into one of his classes?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think he teaches up here in a couple places, too.
Yeah.
I may have missed that when he was...
Endocannabinoid system and medical marijuana 101?
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, and he teaches a lot of other stuff, too, biochemistry stuff that just blows my mind. So real quick, before we get out of here, we've got a pretty impressive list right now of sponsors that support our show. I love them all. They're all really friends of mine. The first one I'll mention is the Hemp Connoisseur magazine. They actually started a show today. They did fantastic. I sat in for the first 15 minutes, had the honor. It's on Thursdays before my show from 4 to 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Great guy, David, and he will probably rotate his various employees in and out. Nexus Meds is kind of their sister friend company, if you want to call it. They're one of the big wholesale companies here for all your edible needs and whatnot. One day we'll get them a commercial as well. Green Monster Glass, who also has no commercial. That's kind of common, huh, Jason?
It seems that way.
Green Monster Glass is very affordable glass to stock your shelves. We have a link on our website to all our sponsors, to their website and or Facebook page. We Grow Colorado, one of my favorite places, one of my only places in the Springs. And I was told the other day when I was at Can Labs that I was supposed to tell Drew it was time to test, but the last time he tested that his levels were super high. And that's why we love We Grow Colorado, because Jennifer would tell me if it sucked. Dixie Elixirs, we're really excited. We had Tripp on last week, who owns Dixie, has his fingers in a lot of cannabis-related stuff. Tripp's a great guy. Dixie does great things for everyone. They've got a great new line out, the Dixie X products, for the folks who can't get the oil. If you are in a state where your cannabis is illegal, this is a perfect alternative. You can go to their website as of September 5th, and it can be shipped anywhere. So I encourage anyone suffering from ailments that cannabis help, do your research, feel comfortable, and then check out Dixie. Again, their website's on our links on our website, so it's easy to find. Independent Records, great place down in the Springs. Been there for like 30-plus years now. Records, music needs, glass, their glass selection. If you ever get down there, dude, you should pop in. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Everything you need. I mean, it's the one-stop shop for whatever. Then you can walk across the street to one of our other sponsors, the Indispensary, which is kind of a sister company of theirs, and it's obviously a dispensary. One of the other places I go when I'm down in the Springs, they've got a location across the street from Independent Records on Platte and next door to Independent Records on West Colorado. And last but not least, Mr. Stanley and his brothers at the Realm of Caring. Again, the Realm is an incredible organization, as we've been saying throughout the night. If you're able and you're not helping, I really wish you would. It is, as we said earlier, about coming together and helping everyone out. So we're like 5 minutes over, and I'm going to get everyone out of here because I'm like tired, and it's time to call it a night and go relax. Until next time, again, guys, let's just stick together, get over the small little speed bumps, and move forward. Get out there and educate some folks. It is election season. We'll see you next time on Overgrow the Radio. Peace.
The law offices of Edson, Mayton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20 of 2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley brothers directly through email. You can get us at gratefuljosh@hotmail.com. Now come on, Colorado. We need to take care of each other. Join the Realm. That's realmofcaring.com. Thank you so much.
The Hemp Connoisseur is Colorado's premier guide to hemp culture. Our mission is to elevate the image of the medical cannabis and hemp industries to create widespread acceptance of the cannabis sativa plant. You can find the latest issue of the Hemp Connoisseur at more than 200 7-Elevens, your favorite dispensary, MMJ doctor offices, and tattered covered bookstores. Do you consider yourself a cannabis connoisseur? Then come be a part of the Hemp Connoisseur's first Cannabis Championship. Visit us at thcmag.com for info on how to sample the best medicine Colorado has to offer.
That Mad Hatter Smoke Shop has everything from space glass to butane and butane accessories. I tell you what, Located at 6091 West Colfax in Lakewood, and now at 2615 Walnut Street in Denver. Ah! God damn it, Reclaim, put your pants back on.
Hi, I'm Josh Stanley.
And I'm Jesse Stanley.
Two of the brothers here from National Geographic's American Weed, and we'd like to invite you to come into our dispensaries in Colorado Springs. Come in for the most pure organic strain selection in Colorado. It's all hand-grown by the Stanley brothers, especially for our patients. So come in and visit us at our two locations, East Platte and West Colorado. And remember,
always be kind to each other.
My name is Gary Johnson. Today I reach out to you, members of all political parties. I reach out to everyone with a vote and an axe to grind. From the Tea Party, the Constitution Party, the Green and Libertarian parties. I call out to all of you, including the disaffected and disillusioned among the Republicans and Democrats. Today there's a handful of people in Washington ruining America for 330 million of us. They've kept our nation in a state of perpetual war and increasing unsustainable debt. This small group has presided over the elimination of our Bill of Rights and the systematic dismantling of our freedoms guaranteed us under our Constitution. It is them we should be fighting, not each other. We the people will never agree on the small things, but let's agree on the big thing. Our leaders have blown it. If we don't get control of this ship together and fix it together, we all go down with it together. I ask you to join me in trying something that's never been attempted before in America. Let's put our parties and our differences aside one time. Be libertarian with me for one election. Together, we'll stop the spending and end the wars. Together, we'll rebuild our own roads, bridges, schools, and hospitals instead of building theirs half a world away. Together, we'll restore our industrial might and our economy. And if in 4 years we as a people decide we don't like peace, prosperity, and freedom, we can always vote tyranny back into office again. America is better and brighter than this. Be libertarian with me this one time